How concerned are you about the possible resumption of the hostilities on the contact line?
This is something that I think everyone is concerned about. Certainly the three OSCE co-chairs, myself, Russia, and France. The office of the personal representative of the OSCE chairman, Ambassador Kasperchik, has an office in the region and has people working for him in the region. And they prepare a weekly report of incidents along the line of contact. And those incidents unfortunately continue. However, I think something that is very important to note, during the most recent ministerial in Moscow on April 28th, both sides, Foreign Minister Mamedyarov of Azerbaijan and Foreign Minister Nalbandian of Armenia, reconfirmed that they want a political, not a military solution. And so we have to have hope that that's where things will head.
So can we say that both sides are, or all sides are back at the negotiation table, something that was interrupted after last year's four-day war? Are sides back on the negotiations, or are you still working to bring them back there?
I think the answer to that is both. Yes, we just had the ministerial meeting in Moscow on April 28th, as I said, and so that's positive. And right now, Foreign Minister Lavrov of Russia and the other two are evaluating what the next step should be in negotiation. But at the same time, there is not at this moment a highest level serious negotiation sitting at the table with the intent to resolve the problem once and for all. So that's what we have to work toward. And that's our role as co-chairs, to facilitate that kind of negotiation and to look for opportunities to build the kind of confidence that would bring the two sides together for very serious high-level negotiation.
Given the tension between the United States and Russia, do you believe that Moscow and Washington can be effectively cooperate to nudge parties toward some type of agreement?
I do believe that it's possible for Russia and the United States to continue to work together successfully on this issue. Even during the periods when our relations with Moscow slide downhill somewhat, over the years, the U.S. co-chair and the Russian co-chair, along with our French counterpart, have always worked together very, very well. I will absolutely say I have the highest respect for my Russian counterpart, Ambassador Popov, and I enjoy working with him as well as with Ambassador Visconti. So this is one area where we can say the relations between Moscow and Russia really don't have any kind of negative effect.
Ambassador, may I ask you a non-diplomatic question, and then you answer as you answer. There are many distinguished experts who think that U.S. and Russia's interests in Nagorno-Karabakh are different, if not opposite, because one is interested in peace, the other is interested in keeping the conflict on frozen stage. And there are other very distinguished experts like Kerry Kavanagh, who said that in fact Karabakh is one of the points where the interests coincide, and that is why Washington should be more actively involved in.
Well, I certainly don't agree with your evaluation that one side wants the conflict to continue. Working on the inside of this process, and especially again with my Russian colleague, I have seen that it's absolutely clear to me that Moscow does not want war in Nagorno-Karabakh. Moscow does not want war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. That would destabilize the whole region. It would harm Russia's interests. Now, U.S. interests. Of course, our national interests will be somewhat different from Russia's national interests because there's a different history, of relations. We have different points of view in how we approach the world, that kind of thing. But just because we have different interests doesn't mean that we can't work together on a particular issue like this. You also asked about Ambassador Kerry Kavanaugh's recent article suggesting the U.S. should become more involved. Well, I would sort of agree that we might become a little bit more active. But we're at the very, very earliest stages of a new presidential administration in Washington. And this administration is still putting together its foreign policy team. They're still reviewing many of the various issues all over the world. And so let's be a little bit patient and see how this develops in the coming months.
Actually, you already answered my question, but I would like to little bit the clearance more. In the past, U.S. administration take the lead in trying to mediate the conflict. Both Clinton and the Bush administration hosted high-level talks in the effort to attain the type of treaty. Do you believe that such an initiative is possible under the Trump administration?
Well, anything is possible. Let's put it that way. Will I predict that this will happen in a Trump administration? I really don't know, but you know what? It's not up to us. In the final analysis, it's really the responsibility of the two sides at the highest levels to commit to a real serious negotiation for a peace process. And once that would happen, then that would unlock all kinds of possibilities for the region. Better communication, better transportation, less isolation, better economic development. So there are many, many positive reasons for the nation and for the people in both countries to really get serious and say, okay, it has been at least 25 years. In some cases, you can look back and say it's been decades. You can even look back and say we've had centuries of conflict here. But it's time in the modern world to find a real solution that will benefit both nations and all people.
Ambassador, coming back to the question of violence and military clashes, it is 23 years since the agreement was signed, ceasefire agreement. So today, can we say that the ceasefire is not possible anymore if continued like this? What's the solution then? Like peacekeepers in the region, or more pressure on the sides to keep the ceasefire, to maintain it? What is the solution that you as mediators see to preserve the peace there?
Well, I think the agreements, plural, reached after 1994 have been relatively successful because there has not been the outbreak of complete war as happened during 1992-94. Yes, last year in April 2016, there was a real serious flare-up of violence, but I think all sides then stepped back and said, we cannot allow this to happen. So we haven't come to the point where we can guarantee, where the international community can guarantee, whether through peacekeepers or financial incentives or anything like that, we haven't come to the point where we can guarantee absolutely no violence. That has to come from the leaders themselves. They have to say, all right, it's time for a better life, it's time for a better world. We have our positions, but there are ways to satisfy both sides. And I think that's what we need to focus on. Get the leaders to the table for serious negotiation, for, maybe it's a cliche to say win-win, because in a tough negotiation, you don't get everything you want. But you get what will benefit the nation and benefit the people. And I think that's what everyone should work toward.
Just a follow-up. Just a follow-up question.
Please.
Will we see the leaders at the table this year, do you think? Two leaders?
Whenever anyone asks me that kind of question on any issue, I say, I don't have a crystal ball. So I can't tell you that we will see it this year. I know that the OSCE co-chairs, I know that Ambassador Kasperchik, and the governments of the co-chair countries continue to work for that goal. And so that's what I've been emphasizing during this entire conversation. It's really time to get the leaders to the table for serious negotiation. That's our goal. Will it happen next month? Will it happen in 6 months or 9 months? I won't predict, but I hope it happens.
What do you think U.S. government or Russian has to do to get reach that goal, to get those two governments to sit on the table and negotiate that?
At the moment, I would say that the Russian government is most active in that process. And that's why Foreign Minister Lavrov called the foreign ministers Nalbandian and Mamedyarov to Moscow on April 28th, because there are any number of documents of the last 23 years. There are plans and programs on the table to discuss. So yes, at the foreign minister level, they can look through all of that and say, here's something new we can agree on. Let's report to our presidents. But in the end, it's the presidents who decide.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you for the interview.
Thanks so
You're
much for
welcome.
your interview and
My pleasure.
for your answers.
And I hope we do it again.